Before heading into a wedding where you will be styling a flat lay, ask yourself, what's the story of the wedding? What do you know about the couple? And what elements from the wedding design can you bring into your flat lay design? For this flat lay, we're going to be using this natural tan surface, and we're pairing it with a really beautiful gold foil and blush suite from Ink & Press Co. And then we have another beautiful suite from Every Little Letter that we're going to be using with beautiful plates and flatware. So let's get started with this. I love this invitation liner. I think it's so much fun. And so we're going to let this be sort of the star of the flat lay here. We've got these beautiful lilac gold foil elements as well. So I'm going to just start building this up, getting as many of the different elements on here as we can. I like to keep things closer together so that, you know, you don't have just things kind of like randomly spaced like that. I think it tells more of an interesting story when you have layers and things like that. So we're gonna kind of pull things in. That might be too much pink for right there, but it's too soon to tell. So here we've created kind of an interesting and unusual rectangle shape, which is not common in flat lays to have something that feels so uniform, but I think that with the right amount of details, it will feel really fun. And then bringing in this sort of taupe name card with the gold foil is just going to add that extra layer of interest into all of this. I did pull some of my linen swatches because I do sometimes like to use those on here. We're gonna see how this looks. I'm not totally sold on the idea, but it's fun to play around with different colors and textures sometimes. Bringing in a little boutonniere. So this overall feels really romantic but still modern, and I think that it's a fun balance. I think I would go ahead and bring this down here instead and pull some of these up here so that we have a little bit more balance between where the green is and where those sort of gold elements are. So we would start like this, and then when we began to pare back, I would sort of pull away some of these extra elements here and focus more on our main invitation. Let's see, you know what? Let's even pull this away and really focus on these two elements because they are so much fun. And I think shots like that are really beautiful. Totally standalone, tell the story. And then if you want to bring in a few other pieces, I think that's really fun as well. I also love with a really organic suite like this, something that feels a little bit more romantic and almost scattered, like you just came across it. I'm gonna add a little bit of space there, but something sort of like this. Maybe we put some loose blooms here to kind of complete this story, but I think that this also is a really beautiful romantic way to organize a suite like this. And last but not least, focusing on just the invitation liner itself. I think you could do something like this where you have, you know, fun blooms. You never want your blooms to look like you place them so perfectly, but that's always a much tougher job than it seems. And then, you know, pulling in our ring box here for a moment like that. Maybe you do something like this. Just again, playing with your details and your shapes, making sure that everything is raised and that the styling surface that you're using is sort of cohesive with the invitation or detail story. In this case, it's very organic and natural, and so using a natural sort of taupe surface makes a lot of sense. Moving on to our next invitation suite. For this, I want to show how I style when I'm using a tray. Really beautiful vintage trays are so much fun to work with, and I think for this particular example, the suite is for an invitation for a wedding in France, and so this is from France, and it just feels really natural to do it that way. And so I'm going to start playing with some of the details here. Let's see. How about that? This is one of my favorite suites that I've ever worked with. Now, when you are styling with these trays, it can get kind of tricky because you have to find a way to keep things lifted. Sometimes that's when a ring box lid comes perfectly in handy because it just, it keeps things lifted just a bit better than the blocks do. Now here I'm kind of just creating a little cascading feel. I want this to feel like, again, a big pile of beautiful paper that was sort of left over from, you know, a wedding celebration or part of what someone packed in their luggage on the way to France. Just a lot of beautiful layers and textures. And again, some things kind of falling down really organically, some things a little bit more strategically placed. And then maybe we bring in a little bit of organic fabric down here to just kind of tell this cascade of a story, but the main focus again is this here. Now, if we start to feel that this is sticking up too high in comparison to the main invitation, what we can always do is increase the distance that it's raised, and I think that that starts to create some visual interest there. I do think for something like this, we'd want to raise that up. Vellum is really interesting because it creates a little bit of a shadow, and so it's never totally clear what your angles and your dimensions are. And so anytime you can raise things up from vellum, I think it's really great to do so. So to pare this back a bit, I think it would be really fun to focus just on this main invitation suite here. Maybe that means bringing in a few other colors and textures so that it can really stand out. But I think we want to make sure that our colors are, our styling blocks are hidden. But even that alone is such a beautiful sort of statement of paper. I think we have the structure of the styling board and the tray and then the main invitation, but then everything behind is really sort of beautiful chaos. So I love that. I want to go ahead and show you, these are actually menu cards. And so I want to show you how you could use a styling board to display a wedding table setup. A lot of people are constantly trying to get right over the top of their tablescape images, and I think sometimes that can be a little bit tricky on a wedding table. And so laying it down on a flat lay is a great way to kind of get that over the top angle that a lot of people really love. And so I want to bring this in here. And again, you've got your name card, your menu card here. In this case, what I would love to do is bring in some flowers kind of over the top up here to create that centerpiece feel. But, you know, of course, if you had a real arrangement, you could do that. But if not, the only thing that I want to note is that I think it would be valuable to raise up this name card just a bit so that you have a bit more dimension here. So that is how I would suggest to make sure you get a great shot of your china, your flatware, your menu cards, is actually taking it off the table and placing it on a flat lay so that you can get these really great level shots.